Greetings. My name is Michael Leroy, and it's my privilege to serve Calvin University as its president. And we gather here today in a different way than what we're used to. Due to the pandemic of this past academic year, we have adapted our instruction and most of the ways that we work with students here at Calvin University. We are deeply appreciative of the 295 years of service represented by these faculty members. First of all, Nancy Meyer, Larry Herzberg, Doug Howard, Ken Pamakala, Mark Williams, Cheryl Brandsen, Paul Fields, Deb Bakker, and Karen Salpe. These faculty have served thousands of students and influenced countless lives by extension. We are looking forward to hearing from them and from those colleagues who represent all of us here today.
When I think of Larry, it's generosity of spirit, and that means generosity of spirit in everything that he does. I think it's especially true with his relationships with his students. There is a sense of how much he loves them, how much of his life is dedicated to them, and how much he gives to them. I think he probably, if pressed, could remember every single name of every single student.
What brought me to Calvin was that 37 years ago, the university allowed me to begin an Asian languages program here. And they supported me as I grew it to include 5 of us teaching Asian languages and an additional 2 full-time faculty teaching Asian studies.
One of the great gifts that Larry has brought to Calvin College is to help us to understand cultures which may be very different from the cultures that most of our students have grown up in.
Walking on the Great Wall with my students outside of Beijing, or visiting ancient Buddhist temples in Japan and beautiful temple gardens, definitely highlights of my Calvin career.
When you're with Larry, you don't want him to leave. You don't want him to stop talking. You don't want him to move on to a new subject sometimes, because he is so deeply engaged in the things that he has studied and in the things in which he participates.
The most thrilling thing to me, and which I will always treasure, is that so many of the nearly 2,000 students I've taught at Calvin have gone on to use their knowledge of the Chinese or Japanese language and culture to serve out in the world in an amazing variety of fields. Thank you, Calvin University, for giving me the chance to share my love and knowledge of East Asia with the wonderful students here at Calvin University.
I think what I'm going to miss most about having Debra around the office is her welcoming smile and her energy.
My job evolved a lot. It was always interesting and ever-changing. I started here and I coached soccer and softball, and I also was involved in a committee that started up a health education program. And so I went from coaching and teaching to mostly teaching, and still love it to this day.
Deb and I have taught women's health for the last 3 years for interim, and I have to say that probably is my favorite class that I've ever been able to teach. And it was really an honor to co-teach a class with such a veteran. Even after teaching the same classes for multiple years, she will come in on her day off so that she can brainstorm new ideas and come up with creative ways of presenting the same curriculum, so it's fresh and new for the students.
It's been such a privilege to spend 27 years of my career teaching here at Calvin. My colleagues have been such an important part of my life. I consider them to be family. We have shared so much over the years, and I have been blessed with some wonderful students that make it a joy to get up in the morning and go to work. The wisdom that I would want to share with my students, and I have said to them often, that teaching is just a phenomenal career. It is so exciting, and I want them to love the work that they do and to share their passion with their students.
What attracted me to Calvin and what helped me stay was I was interested in undergraduate liberal arts education. That was the kind of education I received myself at Calvin. Secondly is that the Department of Religion was large enough that I could teach in my areas of specialization, New Testament and ancient Judaism.
Ken has helped all of us in the religion department see that if we really want our graduates to be Christ's agents of renewal in the world, and to engage the complex issues in our society, they need to know a firm foundation in Bible and theology.
A few years ago, I taught in the Calvin Prison Initiative at Hanlon Prison, and I taught a course on Paul's letters. And one of the things that struck me and I appreciated was how the students asked lots and lots of questions. Not only many questions, but really good questions. And it allowed me to kind of expand on my teaching in ways that I didn't always anticipate. And I think even if we didn't get through all the material, we got to the material a little bit more deeply through their questions.
Ken is a very gifted administrator. He has made the difficult task of being a department chair look easy. He has helped each one of us in our department to flourish, to be the best teachers and scholars we can be. Ken is absolutely irreplaceable. He has been deeply loved and he will be dearly missed.
When I think of Mark Williams, I think of somebody who's deeply rooted in the classics. Mark really sees the classical education as having application in the present. So this is not just old dead authors. These are ways of thinking and living that have implication for life today. And he shared that with his students.
I don't have a favorite class. I never did have a favorite class. I taught every class in the classics curriculum in the catalog at Calvin. And I think that was something like 39 different classes, but my favorite class was always the one I was preparing to teach next.
Mark Williams loves exploring the world and he loves taking students along with him. Mark and I led an interim in January 2020. It was a lot of fun doing the interim trip with Mark Williams. His love for students was obvious from the beginning. Put him in front of a statue and he'll tell you all kinds of stories about it. And that's what I saw time and time again on that interim abroad especially.
One of the humbling things for me was coming onto campus every day and knowing that there were world-class scholars, in practically every hallway, who were willing and even eager to question me about the things that I believed and hoped for. And they taught me that it was okay to question. It was okay to entertain doubts. It was okay under the umbrella of faith to do these things. They did this with their students. They did this with their colleagues. And that was one of the things I learned very early on about Calvin that made it such an excellent place.
In victory and defeat, she is there. In controversy, in good times, she is a bulwark. It was something that I could count on, and I think the student athletes and coaches knew they could count on it as well.
I try to come to work every day and make sure that what I do matters. I want students to know that I care for them, that I work in their best interests, that I do see the big picture, that I work with integrity, and that I would expect the same of them.
Nancy's contributions, man, they're probably too numerous to go through in such a short time. But I tell you what, I think two things that people don't give her enough credit for is she is competitive and she wants to do it right. She has to hold coaches and student athletes' feet to the fire on many different levels. And that's the doing it right part of it. But she's a competitor. She was a competitor as a student athlete. She was a competitor as a coach. She won MIAA titles. She won national titles. She was a champion for women's athletics long before it was popular. In her role as an athletic administrator, no one has fought more vigorously to put our athletes in the best position possible.
One of my greatest joys of working at Calvin is being able to work with students, whether it was as a coach for 20 some odd years or as a professor or even as an athletic director. Calvin has the ability to draw tremendous students, and being able to work with them, to mentor them, to teach them, to coach them has been my greatest joy.
Paul has a very strong Christian faith. It's ingrained in him, and it's part of everything he does.
So the position here at Calvin as both Theological Librarian and Curator of the H. Henry Meter Center was very attractive to me because it's within a Reformed institution that takes the Reformed faith and academics seriously. And I was very interested in that, wanted to be a part of it if I could. As a librarian, my part of this has been, let's think about what this collection should have. which supports the work of the faculty, visiting scholars, and the local community, the denomination as well.
Whenever there are people visiting the library, I like to direct them to the Meter Center because it is such an excellent collection, and it's something we're really proud of in the library.
So yeah, the Meter Center has as its goal to collect absolutely everything we can find on John Calvin, and to have it in one spot.
Paul is a consummate teacher. A lot of the materials are highly scholarly and some are extremely rare, but he makes all of that very approachable. I like watching people when Paul gives his tour. No one looks bored. And I have been through his tour many times. I always learn something new.
I think the one major piece of advice I would give to students and faculty members, anyone coming into the library, is to ask a librarian for assistance.
I first met Karen when I was a senior in college taking her Shakespeare class, and I was completely intimidated by her and by the course. Now that I've gotten to know her as a colleague, I have come to appreciate her warm personality, the way she welcomed me into the department, and the way she supports all of us.
If it were up to me, I would abolish the grading system. I would take the focus off quantification and success and failure and comparisons, and I would focus instead on encouraging exploration, on helping students figure out how to ask good questions, exploring the answers to those questions. I think that exploration is what leads to learning, and learning is what leads to growth.
I think one of the most important things to know about Karen is that she's an English professor who is also a summer camp director. One of my most vivid memories of Karen is from Write Night a few years ago. It was 10 o'clock at night and she was standing in the center of the library raffling off a can of soup. And all of a sudden, Karen the camp director and Karen the English professor collided as crowds of students were cheering to win these crazy door prizes she had scrounged up from her house.
I've had some real privileges, the opportunity to host Intercompass interviews over many years, to moderate questions and answers on the January series, to teach a January series interim class. Those have given me the opportunity to have some really great conversations with some fascinating speakers.
I can't imagine Calvin or the Calvin English department without Karen, and we are all going to miss her greatly.
Doug is a great storyteller, and that makes him good company. It makes him a great teacher, and it makes him a great writer. I think one of the reasons students love his classes is that he's a fabulous storyteller.
What kept me over all these years is a kind of personal, intellectual, and spiritual compatibility. Calvin became an intellectual home for me. I couldn't believe a place like this existed that would allow me to put the two halves of myself together that previously I'd always thought should be separate, the academic and the Christian.
I think one of Doug's most important legacies to Calvin is going to be as someone who went above and beyond to get students to understand how essential it is to appreciate other cultures. Cross-cultural communication and interreligious dialogue are not just slogans for him. They sum up his approach to life as a scholar and as a teacher. I've rarely met people in whom those things fit together so well.
We have a lot of students from really diverse backgrounds, and it's been a joy to work with them and to have my faith challenged and expanded by interaction with students who are not like myself. If I wanted students to have one takeaway from my courses, it would be that all people are human beings and their histories are written out of evidence. I think it's important to be able to build true stories of the human past and not just go by received wisdom.
When I think of Cheryl, I will always think of my deep appreciation for her earnest, hard work, the excellence that she brings to the work that she does. What people may not always know is that she has a wonderful sense of humor and a very quick wit. And so I have come to appreciate and really rely on her ability to make me laugh as we have done our work together.
What brought me to Calvin in 1982 was the opportunity to teach in the Sociology and Social Work department. and particularly in the inaugural year of the Bachelor of Social Work program. There have also been many opportunities to be a part of something that matters. Being able to have small parts, for example, in helping launch the Calvin Prison Initiative, to developing a social work program in Liberia, and to thinking about what kind of expectations we want to have for the faculty who work here, and how can we best support faculty in their own development.
Cheryl has made a number of significant contributions to Calvin that I have no doubt will endure for a very long time. In the DeVries Institute, she really had an animating vision and a passion for the integration of faith and learning, the thoughtful application of Reformed theology to the capacity that faculty have to deliver that education.
I'm just very grateful for having had these opportunities. In all of these years of working here, although the work has been hard, there has seldom been a day when I have not looked forward to coming to work because of the community here, the good people here, and a mission that is just deep in my bones.
We hope you will remember to reach out to these friends, stay connected to them, give them your thanks, give thanks to God for them. And most of all, we urge you to stay connected with them because the heritage of Calvin University is closely linked to the long-serving commitments of our faculty.